Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of April 17th. This week provides a path to intimacy and to strengthening your financial security as well. I'm excited to share the themes with you this week. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm the creator of Neo-Feminine Astrology. I'm an astrologer and a creative counselor to women. So I'll share with you some of the themes this week so that you know how to use them, what they mean, and then I have 3 tips for you to use this energy in a fun and practical way. So the biggest aspect that we have to work with this week is Venus is squaring Saturn. And so this is really cool because it's a continuation from last week because Venus is now direct. So Venus was retrograde up until April 15th, just a few days ago. So it's really interesting the way that this has happened because Venus moved very close to where it created a square aspect with Saturn, and then it turned direct at that point. So it's kind of like hovering in this area, which just means that it's a call to action for us to really pay attention to this aspect. So what does that mean, Venus square Saturn? Venus is the planet of love, money, sex, and relationships. And Saturn, in contrast, is the planet that represents devotion, diligence, and building strong foundations. That's what Saturn is all about. So when someone has this, so when there's a square aspect, that requires action. A square wants us to do something to integrate these two energies, to integrate money, love, sex, relationships, whatever of those is most active in your life, to create a strong foundation, to devote yourself in some way to those areas of your life, especially if they're a little bit problematic or if they could use some work. So people with this aspect that have it natally when they were born, if you have this, the downside, the shadow side, is it can create these feelings of isolation or loneliness because there's like this, there's this disconnect sometimes that can happen where relationships, Venus, feel like they're just really hard work, Saturn. But that's the shadow side, and once a person who has this in their life, in their makeup, realizes that their relationships require diligence over time, that relationships require trust to be built over a long period of time, then that person can find very solid relationships. And so we all get to experience this energy this week. So what I want you to think about is what kind of Venus areas of your life, whether it's your relationships, that could even be romantic or otherwise, romantic friendships, even clients or people that you partner with in work, or money, finances, or even your sexuality. What areas of these life require more commitment from you, that you're like this isn't exactly how I want it and I want to commit myself to it. You're rewarded when you commit yourself in this way this week. And Venus is also making an aspect to Mars and Taurus, and so you're really rewarded when you focus on what it is that you want. Mars is action-oriented, and so there's a lot of energy this week around stability, but still moving towards what it is that you want. It does require a little bit of patience. But it's all about building a strong foundation. So I don't want you to buy into all this hype bullshit about Saturn being like hard and making things like break and loss and all of that. Like that can happen, but when you engage with this energy, it does create a strong foundation, especially if you're really clear on what it is that you value and what it is that's important to you. So the other aspect this week is that Mercury is retrograde. So Mercury is retrograde also in the sign of Taurus until May 3rd. And so this is a time where it's great for you to review how it is that you find comfort and security. Those are Taurus things. And it's really cool because Taurus is ruled by Venus, so there's this continuing theme over these weeks through the end of the month around values and security. Taurus is even related to money. So it's a wonderful time to be very diligent with what it is that you value, and to make sure that what you're doing, what you're spending your time on, your energy, matches up with what it is that you value most. And I know that, sometimes we have to do the stuff that we don't want to do, but you have more control than you think sometimes. Where you put your emotional energy is really key this week. So that being said, I have 3 tips for you to use the energy this week. So tip number 1 is to know your biggest Venus challenge. And so what's your biggest challenge when it comes to love, money, sexuality, or relationships? Maybe you're like, Shauna, oh my gosh, all those things. That's okay. But what's the one underlying theme? What's the tendency that you have? What's a pattern that you notice is repeating? And you don't necessarily need to know how to fix it, but I imagine that you may have seen something come up in your life, especially a theme that may have come up since Venus was retrograde during that time, from March 4th to April 15th, that chunk of time. What's come up for you around love, money, sexuality, and relationships? It doesn't even need to be like bad things. It could just be something, maybe it's like this beautiful gift that's happened. But if there is a challenge, I want you to name it. I want you to write it down and to know it well. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to remember that intimacy takes building trust over time. So Venus essentially is intimacy. It's how we partner. It's how we team up with others. Again, romantically, friendship, partnerships of all kinds, even business partnerships. And this week it bears a reminder that these things take time. Brené Brown has this beautiful example that she uses in one of her TED Talks, where she compares building trust to putting a little marble in a jar, one marble at a time. And the marble represents when someone does something that allows you to trust them, that builds intimacy. And so whatever it is that you're moving towards that is really important to you right now, I want you to think about anytime that you do something for that, or you put your energy there, you're putting a little marble in the jar. And then someday the jar will be full and you'll have that really strong foundation. But I want you to remember that takes time. And Saturn loves that. Saturn loves time and devotion. So that's tip number 2. Remember, it takes time. Tip number 3 is to give yourself what you need this week to have comfort. So this is really related to Mars being in contact with Venus, Mars and Taurus, and it's important to soothe yourself this week, because the Venus-Saturn, some people can and may this week experience it as feeling like a little bit heavy or hard. But so the balm for that, the medicine for that, is to give yourself what you need to feel comfortable, to feel soothed, whether that is food or massage or a walk in nature. Especially because Mercury is retrograde, it's really important for you this week, or it's very helpful this week, to nurture yourself, to nurture your body, the physical things that you need to feel good. So that's tip number 3, to give yourself what you need to feel comfortable. So that's your weekly horoscope. I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you have, please share it with a friend. I love getting these messages out to as many people as possible. And if you want to have an astrology reading, go to my website, neofemininastrology.com, or send me an email, shauna@neofeminine.com, and we'll set it up for you. So I'm wishing you an amazing week and sending lots of love. Namaste.